What do you collect? Now, of course, like I've said before, there are many ways to say the same thing in English. We have learned present perfect tense, but you don't have to use that. So a lot of you, when you were in school, your teachers would tell you, you have to say this, you can't say this, you have to say that, you can't say this. And it makes people really nervous. Like, oh geez, I don't want to make a grammar mistake, I'll look silly. But who cares? There are many ways to say the same thing. One might be a little bit clearer, or one might add the time to it, but there are many ways to say something. You can just use present tense and say, I collect blah, blah, blah. I collect anime figures. I collect these little ducks. My friends. You can tell this is live because I keep messing everything up. You can use collect because it's something that's true, something you do again and again. So present tense is totally fine here. I collect toys. I collect books. I collect stamps. I collect plates, whatever. So I collect is totally fine. It's something that's true, something you do again and again. So don't feel like you have to use present perfect tense. But if you want to use present perfect, what do you say? Well, I have collected. And the difference here, I collect means it's true. I do it all the time. I still do it. I have collected, it means it started in the past and continued till now, which is kind of similar. So I collect means it's true all the time. I have collected means it started back then and it's still true now. So there are two ways to say the same idea, right? So don't get too worried about should I use one or should I use the other. Sometimes they're both okay. So I have collected something for a length of time. So I have, usually we change it to I've. So spoken English, we don't say I have that often. Usually you'll hear people say I've. So you have to listen carefully. I've collected blah, blah, blah for blah, blah, blah. So that v is really subtle sometimes. I've collected books for 5 years. Okay? So if you use the word for, we want a length of time. So time that you can measure. Like, I've collected books for 5 years. It's a length of time. Okay? Now you can also say, I've collected something since a specific time. So for, you have a length of time. I have collected books for 5 years. All that time, I've spent time collecting books. Okay? You can use since to say, I've collected books since 2015. So it started at that time and then continued after that time. So since you give one time and you're telling that it started at that time. Okay? So I've collected toys for 2 years. It's a length of time. Okay? I've collected toys since the year 2020. So it started at one time and continued after. Okay? Now that's a little bit tricky. They're just two ways to say similar things. We're going to practice for and since in a couple minutes. Okay? Now, what else can we say? In our lessons, we also learned present, perfect, continuous. Whew, the names of grammar is tricky, even for me, so don't worry. So we can say, I've been collecting books for 5 years. So we have I've collected up here, and then I've been collecting down here. Now these are basically the same. We mentioned in our lessons that these two are almost exactly the same. But using I've been collecting is focusing on that you feel like it's a long time. So you're focused on how long you've been doing it. So I've been collecting books for 10 years. You feel like that's a long time. Okay? You can also do the same thing with since. I've been collecting toys since I was a baby. Okay? So the I've been collecting, it's the same idea. It started in the past, continued till now, but by using been, then ing, you're showing that you feel like it's kind of a long time. Okay? Remember that from our lessons? Now, of course, I've is not the only choice. You could change this and talk about other people you know, right? You could say, he's collected. Oh, my dad likes baseball cards. He's collected hundreds of baseball cards. Or your mom. My mom likes to collect blah, blah, blah. Postcards or something. She's collected many postcards. Okay? Same with the present perfect continuous. If I have trouble with it, don't worry if you think it's tricky. Just remember how to make it. So if you're talking about your dad, oh, he's been collecting shoes for 10 years. It's a long time. Or your grandma, she's been collecting spoons for 30 years. Oh my gosh, a long time. So this is what we learned in our lessons. I've collected versus I've been collecting. They're the same. They're both okay. The been collecting just makes it seem like it's a long time. So if you're ever not sure, keep it simple. So if you're not sure if you should use I've been collecting, don't use it. Use the easier one, I've collected. Okay? So all three of these are fine. They're all kind of the same meaning. And so don't worry if you use the wrong one or you use one and not the other. One thing is, I know a lot of students who use I've been verb ing more than they need to. Usually the other two are fine. So you can use I've been collecting, but not that often. It's usually better to keep it simple and say I've collected or I collect. Okay? So don't worry, but keep it simple, okay? Now let's practice for and since, okay? This is something that might be a little bit new, but I think it's useful and helpful. So we won't spend too long on this, but whatever. A little bit extra is good, right? Okay, let me double check everything's working. Maybe whatever. Hopefully Facebook's not fighting with me again. Okay, now, like I said before, if we use the word for, that's a length of time. So I have collected books for 4 years. That means we're measuring that length of time. We're talking about all 4 years. So if you use the word for, it's going to be matched with a length of time. So what are some words we can put with this? Well, for, you could say for a day. I've been exercising for a day. Wow, good job, good start. Or like a day is a length of time, right? Or you could say a week. I haven't eaten potato chips for a week. Okay, there's that length of time, and you can use for. I haven't done it for a week. Could also say a few minutes. I haven't drunk any water I haven't drunk any water for a few minutes. So, have you been drinking water? Take a sip now. It's good for you. So a few minutes is a length of time. 10 minutes. I haven't eaten anything for 10 minutes. You can think of it's a length of time, okay? 30 seconds. If you hold your breath. He didn't breathe for 30 seconds. You're counting the time, okay? For an hour. You get the idea. For a moment. Please wait for a moment. And then a little while and a long time. So, I haven't seen my friend for a little while. I haven't seen my friend for a long time. So all of these are times you can measure, right? And then if you want to use since, you can think of the word after since as a starting point. So you started at that time and then it continued after that. So I have been collecting books since 2018. It means the same thing as for, but for is measuring the time for 4 years. Since 2018 is saying starting at that time and continuing. Does that make sense? I hope so. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat so I know how I can help you guys. Otherwise, I'll just go blah, blah, blah. Okay, so some words that go with since. Since last night. So this might seem like a time you can measure, like, oh, the night. But no, actually it's a starting point. I haven't seen John since last night. Maybe John and I got dinner together and then we said goodbye and then I haven't seen him since last night. Okay? So it started at that time and then continued. Maybe you forgot to drink water. A lot of people do. Oh, oops, I haven't drunk any water since this morning. So starting at this morning, continuing after. Notice I'm using negative verbs too. I haven't drunk any water. And then Friday. Maybe you ate something unhealthy on Friday, but you've been good the past few days. I haven't had greasy food since Friday. It started at that time, continued after. Okay? And then since 10:30, maybe you started working at 10:30 in the morning, or well, maybe earlier. But I have worked since 10:30 this morning, or maybe it's a long meeting. Oh, I have been in a meeting since 10:30. Oh God, that's way too long. Okay? July. I haven't gone to the beach since July. Start at that time, continue. 2010. I have been exercising at the gym since 2010. So it started at that time, continued. What else? And then you can also use phrases for this. If you use for, I don't think you could use a phrase. Well, you could say like something like for my whole life, because you're measuring that whole time. So let's add that. My whole life. I've liked eating pizza for my whole life. Okay? And then using since is starting at a time and continuing. So that time can be something in your life. So I've been studying Chinese since I was actually earlier. I think I was 19. Oh, scary, right? So I've been studying Chinese since I was 19. when I was in college. So starting at that period of your life. And then 2 more. Christmas. I have had these socks since Christmas. So my mom gave them to me. I've had these socks since Christmas. It continues on. And last but not least, you could talk about work. I've answered emails every day since I started this job. Started this job is something that happened, and then you continue on from there. Okay? So for and since are similar, but they're a little bit different. And hopefully this is helpful for you, because we put these with present perfect quite often. So for a period of time, a length of time, and since one time, a starting point. It started at that time and continued after. Let's do a little more grammar practice. A few, just fill in the blanks, okay? So maybe we don't need all of these. Let's just do these on the left, okay? So if we have for or since, let's practice this a little bit. So remember, for is a length of time, and since means you started at a time and continued after that, okay? So let's look at each of these, see if you can figure out, is this a length of time, so we use for, or is it a starting point and we use since? Okay. 1, 2 hours. I have worked, blah, blah, 2 hours. So 2 hours is a measurement. It's a length of time. So we say it's for. Okay? I have worked for 2 hours. Okay? Good job. Next one, a long time. Is this a measurement, a length of time, or a starting point? Long time. Okay. Kyle has studied Chinese, blah, blah, a long time. Well, this one is for. Good job. Now, a long time is a measurement of time, right? If you want to use since, you can do a similar phrase. You can say since a long time ago. Because a long time ago is one time way back then. A long time ago. Or 5 years ago. So this is a tricky thing, that if you add ago, that makes it one time where it started. So America has been a country since a long time ago. Okay? So for a long time is a length of time. Since a long time ago is the starting point. Okay? Now how about this morning? I have eaten lots of food this morning. Well, this is one time, and that's when we started something, so we use since. Good job. So it started it this morning and continued forward. Okay. Kyle has been talking 9 o'clock. Is this a length of time or a starting point? Well, 9 o'clock is one time, so we use since. Good job. Okay. 1 month. Example. Give me an example, quick. My friend has exercised 1 month. Is this a starting point or a length of time? Length of time, so we say it's for 1 month. Good. Oh, last night. We saw this a minute ago. I haven't seen John last night. Is it a length of time or a starting point? Well, starting point, because it's one time. So since last night. And they've been married 2001. If it's 00 in the middle, you can't say 20. You say 2001. You don't say 2001. That's too crazy. So they've been married 2001. I just did it again. Whatever. Is it a starting point or a length of time? Starting point, so we say since. Oh, I can't spell. Don't type too fast. Okay. You've been listening to me half an hour. Is that a length of time or a starting point? Well, it's a length of time, so we say for half an hour. You've been listening for half an hour. You might have heard what I just said. I think I just said for a half hour. For half an hour, for a half hour, it's the same. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Two ways to say the same thing. Okay? Next. I have loved candy. I was a child. Is this a length of time or is it a starting point? Well, I was a child was one time, so we use since. I've loved Skittles candy since I was a child. Okay? And how about number 10? 20 minutes. You try. Length of time, starting point. Well, she has been running 20 minutes. She has been running for 20 minutes. Good for her. It's a hard workout. Okay? Good. So, yeah, hopefully this is helpful for you. I hope you were able to get these correct. Oh, Monica, you typed them in. Good for you. Yeah. So this is a little bit of practice for you guys. Let's see. Yeah, and so a lot of times when we use present perfect, have been, or have done, or have collected, have watched, those kinds of verbs, we often put it with for and since. So if you got all these right, good job. Great work. So let's move on. Spend a few minutes talking about popular things to collect in the US.